Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video we'll be answering the question, where does a comma go between two nouns in a compound subject or a compound object? A compound subject is this: Robbie and his team. As you can see, there are two parts to the subject because Robbie is a subject and his team is another part of the subject. Now let's take an example that doesn't work. Richard and his team are leaving now. Unfortunately, the use of the comma in this example separates Richard from his team. Now, that does not work because Richard and his team are a compound subject. They are leaving together and they are part of the same subject. So we should never try and separate them. Instead, we should never have a comma between parts of the compound subject. The sentence should instead be, Richard and his team are leaving now, with no comma at any point in the sentence. So don't separate two nouns that appear together as a compound subject with a comma. That is incorrect grammar if you do. Let's move on to a compound object. In the example I'm about to show you, it's underlined. Maya is wearing a bright jumper and blue jeans. So in this scenario, the object of the sentence is related to what Maya is wearing. And there's more than one item that is the object in this sentence, hence why it's a compound object. There's more than one element to it. Let me give you an example that involves a compound object, but it's being used incorrectly, or at least the comma is. He ate the fish, comma, and chips. Good food choice, but unfortunately, the comma has separated the fish from the chips. We shouldn't be separating parts of the object that are compound because they go together. Instead, we should say, he ate the fish and chips. So, don't separate two nouns that appear together as a compound object with a comma, because that also is confusing for the reader. So to simplify it, if you've got a compound subject or a compound object, you do not use a comma between them. Now it's your turn. Decide if the examples below need a comma or already use it properly. Hit pause if you need thinking time. So, what did you find? How did you get on? Ricky and, comma, the crew are meeting after filming finishes. Sounds interesting, but the use of the comma is incorrect. It's a definite no about the use of the comma. We should never separate a compound subject. And Ricky and the crew are the compound subject of the sentence. There should be no comma used. The cow ambled between the grass, comma, and the oak tree. This is also incorrect, but this time we're looking at the compound object. The grass and the oak tree are being discussed. So no, we should never separate a compound object with a comma. That is grammatically incorrect. And finally, Nick pulled the flowers and planted them beside the palm tree and tall bushes. This is totally correct. The compound object has not been separated because we're talking about the palm tree and tall bushes and we're not separating them. It's important that you realise that you're looking first of all to see if there is a compound subject or a compound object before you can identify if a comma has been misused. It is in that order that you can decide whether there is a correction to be made. Now it's your turn. For each of the 5 sentences listed here, I'd like you to decide if there is a need for a comma or if the comma has been used appropriately. Hit pause if you need thinking time. So, I wore my ice skates and a warm coat. In this instance, the ice skates and the warm coat are compound objects in the sentence, where I am the subject. I don't need a comma because I shouldn't be separating the compound objects. So this is correct as a sentence. Tyrell and his class are waiting for the bell to ring. So Tyrell and his class are the compound subject. And it's totally correct without a comma because we should never be using a comma to separate the compound subjects either. The beast, comma, and his family were left alone by the sea. Unfortunately, the beast and his family shouldn't be separated, partly because they're family, but secondly and most importantly because we never separate the compound subject. So that sentence is incorrect. We should remove the comma from after the word beast. Akira and her sister played in the band for years. So the compound subject here is Akira and her sister. And in this instance, the sentence is correct. Finally, Eric and Sybil's family often get angry with each other. What's strange is that Eric has been separated from the compound subject he is a part of. So this sentence is incorrect. We shouldn't split the compound subject with a comma. Ultimately, our job is to make our writing as clear as possible. When we separate a compound subject or a compound object, we're making it increasingly difficult for someone to follow what is happening or who is involved in a sentence. So ensure that you strip back your sentences to the most important facts and moments. The simplest way of doing this with a sentence is ensuring that if you've got a compound subject or a compound object, you never separate them with a comma. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?